Princess Zaina was already bored, which was a dangerous thing in a room full of elders. She sat straight on the carved wooden seat beside the throne, spine stiff the way the royal tutors demanded, hands folded neatly in her lap. Her face was arranged into the calm marks expected of a future queen. Anyone watching closely would have approved, and many people were watching closely. The council hall of Amari was full that afternoon. Sunlight filtered through the tall openings near the roof, painting warm stripes across the clay floor. The smell of burning herbs drifted slowly through the air from the ceremonial braziers at the corners of the room. Zaina had counted the tiles on the floor 3 times already. The elders sat in a wide half circle before the throne, their long robes pulled around their ankles. Each held a carved staff, polished smooth from years of use. Their voice carried easily in the chamber as they spoke about trade, crops, and the endless language of balance. Behind them stood the warriors of Amari, silent, still, and watching. They leaned against the thick pillars of the hall with the patience of hunters waiting for movement in tall grass. Spears rested lightly in their hands. Their eyes moved constantly, measuring every whisper and every shift in the room. Courtiers filled the back rows. They murmured softly behind their hands, their whispers moving through the hall like small insects skittering through dry leaves. Zaina shifted her feet. Her mother leaned slightly towards her without turning her head. Still, the queen whispered. Zaina didn't look at her. I am still. You are vibrating. Zaina clenched her jaw. She forced her legs to stop bouncing and fixed her eyes forward again, focusing on the elder who currently held the floor, Elder Sogba. He was tall even while seated, with narrow shoulders and sharp cheekbones that made his face look permanently disappointed. His face carried easily through the chamber. The borders remain calm, he said slowly. The hunters report no unusual movement from neighboring settlements. The forest has been generous this season. He paused for emphasis. The spirits favor balance. There it was again, balance. The word has been spoken at least 10 times since the meeting began, possibly more. Zaina had stopped counting after the 7th. She sighed before she could stop herself. It was a small sound, but in a quiet room, even a small sound becomes a stone dropped in still water. Every single head turned. The ripple moved through the hall instantly. Warriors lifted their chin, courtiers leaned forward, a few elders exchanged knowing glances. Elder Sogba paused mid-sentence. Slowly and deliberately, he turned his head towards her. Princess Zaina, he said, his voice smooth as polished wood. Do you disagree? Zaina hesitated. She felt her mother's finger tighten around her wrist. Her father's expression did not change. King Adisa sat on the throne beside her with the unshakable stillness of a mountain. His broad shoulders filled the carved seat, his gaze forward and unreadable. But Zaina knew that look. It meant choose your next words carefully. Too late for that. I just think, Zaina said carefully, that saying the spirits are pleased doesn't make it true. A ripple of murmurs swept through the hall. Several elders shifted in their seats. One warrior coughed quietly into his face to hide a smile. And why would that be? Elder Sogba asked. Zaina lifted her chin. Because the forest doesn't feel calm, she said, and pretending it does won't fix anything. The silence that followed felt heavier than before. One of the elders leaned forward, whispering something behind his sleeve. Another elder studied her more closely. You feel the forest? He asked. Zaina shrugged. Anyone who pays attention does. Her mother inhaled sharply. Zaina! The warning in the queen's voice was soft but unmistakable. Elder Sogba smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Attention, he said slowly, must be guided, especially for someone in your position. Zaina felt the familiar spark of irritation flare in her chest. My position doesn't make me wrong. Another ripple. Somewhere in the back of the hall, someone shifted nervously. The elder tilted his head slightly, as if studying a particularly curious insect. Passion is admirable, he said, but wisdom comes with patience. Zaina opened her mouth. Enough, her father said. The word sliced cleanly through the room. Instant silence. Even the courtiers stopped whispering. Zaina felt heat rise in her chest, but she closed her mouth. Elder Sogba bowed his head slightly towards the throne. The princess is young, he said smoothly. Passion often speaks before wisdom. Zaina looked away before she said something that would make the situation worse, which, judging by her history, was extremely likely. The meeting dragged on for another 20 minutes. Trade routes, river levels, a dispute over farmland near the eastern boundary. Zaina heard none of it. When the council finally dismissed, relief moved through the room like wind through tall grass. Elders stood stretching stiff knees. Courtiers began whispering again, louder now that the official discussion was finished. Warriors relaxed their stances slightly, though their eyes never stopped scanning the room. Zainab stood too quickly. Walk, her mother murmured as they stepped into the corridor outside of the council hall. Don't storm. I wasn't storming, Zainab replied. You were. The queen stopped walking just outside the archway. Again, she said. Zainab turned to face her. The corridor was quiet, lined with carved wooden pillars and hanging lanterns. A few servants passed at a distance, their heads respectfully lowered. No guard stood close enough to hear, but in Amari, the walls had ears. You embarrassed the council, her mother said. They embarrassed themselves. Zainab shot back. They talk like the forest is a storybook. Her mother's eyes hardened slightly. You are not a child in the market, she said. You are the heir. That's the problem, Zainab replied. The queen exhaled slowly. One day, she said, all of this will be yours. She gestured vaguely behind them towards the council chamber. The people, the elders, the responsibility. Zainab laughed. The sound was sharp and short. If that's ruling, she said, I don't want it. Her mother stiffened. Do not say that. Why? Zainab demanded. Because it scares them. Her voice rose despite herself. Or because it scares you. The queen said nothing. That silence hurt more than any scolding. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then the queen straightened her robes. We will speak about this later, she said. And she walked away. Later, alone in her chamber, Zainab kicked off her sandals and dropped onto the floor. The stone was cool beneath her feet. She leaned back against the wall and stared up at the wooden beams of the ceiling. Princess, heir, future queen. The words floated around her like stubborn flowers. None of them fit. She reached under her bed and pulled out a thin book wrapped in one cloth. It was not one of the approved texts from the royal tutors, which made it far more interesting. The cover was cracked with age, the ink faded so badly the title was nearly gone. Zainab opened it to a page she had marked weeks ago. The words were simple. When balance breaks, the land remembers. Zainab frowned. That was it. No explanation or story attached to the sentence. Typical. She closed the book with a snap and crossed the room to the window. From the palace tower, she could see the most of Amari. Roof of clay and woven grass stretched across the village. Narrow paths moved between homes where people moved freely. Traders, children, farmers, carrying baskets on their heads. Life, real life, not the stiff silence of council halls. Beyond the village stood the forest, Igberu, dark, endless, and alive. The tree rose like an ocean of green shadows, their leaves shifting slowly in the afternoon breeze. The forest did not ask her to sit still. It did not ask her to speak politely. It did not ask her to pretend everything was balanced. Zainab pressed her palm against the window frame. I won't rot on the throne, she whispered. Outside, the leaves shifted, not from the wind, something deeper, something listening, and for the first time that day, Zainab smiled.